Hey guys, welcome to this video about circumference of a circle. Remember, circumference of a circle is just finding the perimeter of a circle or the distance around the outside. A couple of fundamentals you need to know. First and foremost are the two different measurements of a circle. The distance from one edge across to the other, cutting through the center, is called the diameter. And the radius is a measurement from the center to the edge. Okay? It's really important you know the difference. Okay, the radius is just half the size of a diameter. The diameter is twice the size of a radius. The other thing you need to be aware of is this symbol here, which is known as pi, spelled P-I. Okay, and this is a symbol that represents a value that was discovered many thousands of years ago. It's a Greek symbol. And what it actually is, if you look at the diameter, and you took that measurement and, like with a piece of string, and you wrapped it around the circle, you would discover that it takes just over 3 of those to get round the circle. In fact, it takes 3.141592654, and that carries on to infinity and beyond. You'll notice there's no pattern to the numbers. Okay, so have a little experiment at home. Find a cylinder, measure with a piece of string the distance across the center of it, cut it, and then wrap it around the outside, make a mark, keep wrapping it around, and you'll discover that the amount of times that measurement of the diameter goes round will be pretty close to, will just be over three times. Okay, and that's where that number comes from. So that's why this formula came about. Okay, because if you find the measurement of the diameter and you multiply it by just over 3, you will find the circumference of that circle. Okay, we can use pi instead of that 3 and a bit. Okay, it's more precise. Okay, so pi times the diameter will give us the circumference. But if we just have the radius, which is half of the diameter, we just multiply 2 times pi times r. It doesn't matter which way you multiply it. You could go two lots of r, which gives us a d, times pi. Okay, because in multiplication, 2 times 5 is 10, 5 times 2 is 10. Okay. Mathematicians are a bit lazy, so they tend to miss out the multiplication sign when showing a formula, but when they go to use it, they put the multiplication sign back in. Okay, nobody wants to be writing long words like circumference and diameter all the time, so they come up with letters or variables to represent those. The only other thing you need to be aware of is reading instructions carefully. Okay, in a question, it might just say, find the circumference of a circle, in which case you can choose to use the pi button on your calculator. If you're not sure where that is, I'll just hold this up a little bit closer so you can see. You need to press, let's turn it on, you need to press shift, and down the bottom here, at this button here, is a times 10, and that's pi. Okay, and if I press equals, it gives me the value. Okay, so just to show you again, it's shift and the times 10 button. Okay, shift 10 gives me pi. Okay, so if the instruction just says find the circumference, you can choose to use the pi button, or you can choose to use 3.142. Okay, but sometimes the instruction might say use 3.142 or 3.14 or 3.1416. Okay, just follow the instructions, and whatever instruction you follow, you must, if you use your calculator, the pi button, then in your equation you'll write pi. However, if you use a value, a rounded value of pi, you need to write down the value instead. Okay, we'll do an example to show you. So here's my circle. Okay, we'll go right across this time, and let's say they give me a measurement of 14 meters. Okay, and the question says using pi. Okay, so it wants us to use pi. Find the circumference of this circle. This is where I go to my toolbox. Okay, I look at my circle and I ask myself, well, what part of the circle have they given me? They've given me D. I actually write that down on the question so I don't pick the wrong tool. It's like me wanting to hammer in a nail and I'm picking up the screwdriver instead. Well, that wouldn't work so well. Okay, pick the right tool for the job. My problem is using the diameter, so I must select the formula that uses the diameter. Okay, and it's really important that you follow these steps. Okay, so step 1 is show the tool that you're using. So I'm using this tool here, so I write it down. Circumference equals pi times d. Okay, my next step is to put in any values that I know. Now my instruction said to use pi, so that stays the same. Do I know the circumference? No, I don't. So those can stay the same. Do I know the value of d? Yes, I do. It's 14. Now remember, mathematicians must put in the sign that they're using multiplication times 14. Now I can solve that on my calculator. Okay, so in my calculator, I put everything on that's on this side of equals into my calculator because I'm trying to find the value of C. I'm trying to find the circumference. So on my calculator, sorry if you can see this very well, I press Shift and this button here to get pi, press times and 14. Okay, if you can see that on my calculator, press equals. Now I've got 43.98229715. Well, I'm not going to write all those digits down, so my first thing I must do is look at the instructions again. They might tell me to round it to 1 decimal place. It might ask me to round it to 2 decimal places. For the purpose of this question, let's just say it wanted it rounded to 1 decimal place. What that actually means is you look at this number, identify where the decimal is, and 1 place means count 1 number. Now we've got the number 9, and beside that is an 8. Just so I can show you a bit clearly, I'll show you to the side. So down here we had 43.9822 and it carried on. Okay, if my instruction said round to 1 decimal place, here's 1 decimal place here, but it's the number next to it that has a bit of control here. This decides whether this number gets rounded up or whether it stays the same. Now if you think of things like a number line, if this was 1 and this was 2, this is 1.5, this is halfway, okay, along there. Now if you have 0.5 or more, it would get rounded up to this number here, the next one up. If it was a 0.4, so if it was a 4 or less, it gets rounded, or stays the same, it stays where it was. Okay, so in this case, if I had 1.43, okay, sorry, yeah, 1.43, and I wanted to round that one, it would stay the same. If it was 1.6, it would go to 2. So using that knowledge here, the 8 is more than 5, so I need to round up. Well, 9 plus 1 gives me 10, leaves a 0 there, plus 1 more here. So my answer is 44.0. Now I must leave that 0 there for the reason being it shows that I rounded to 1 decimal place. So I leave it there to hold that place. Okay, so when I record my number, I write what my rounding was, what were my units. I must put my units, meters, and just for extra measure, I'm going to tell the person marking my work that that number, that value was rounded to 1 dp. All right, that's how you find the circumference of a circle using the diameter. Let's do another one with the radius. We'll go through a bit quicker this time. Here's my circle. Okay, I've got a radius of 5.4 meters again. This time my instructions tell me to use 3.142 as pi, and it wants me to round to 2 decimal places. Alright, what part of the circle do I actually have? I've got the radius, so I'm using this tool. Step 1, write down the formula you're using. Circumference equals 2 pi r. Now I'm going to put in the values I know. I don't know the circumference yet. 2 times pi, remember they've told me I have to use this number. 3.142 times r, my radius is 5.4. Now it's all multiplication, so I can put that in my calculator all at once. So all I'm simply pressing on my calculator is 2 times 3.142 times 5.4 equals, and the number I got was 33, let me write that down, 33.9336. What were my instructions? To round to 2 decimal places. Here's the decimal point, 1 place, 2 places. Here's the number with the power, okay? It's a 3, it's less than 5, which means this stays the same. So my answer, rounded to the instructions, is 33.93 meters, and it was rounded to 2 dp. And that's how you solve it. Thanks for listening, boys. I hope that was useful.